Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to do a complete side-by-side comparison of the two most popular adult piano methods, Alfred's Basic Piano Course and Piano Adventures. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and make sure to check the notifications bell to never miss a new video. Also, if you like this video, don't forget to give us a like. So first of all, Happy New Year everybody. This is my first video of 2022. Let's hope for the best that this year is going to be much better than the previous one. The reason why I'm starting with this video is because these two books seem to be the most popular on my channel, and I know they are indeed the most popular books for adult beginners or any kind of beginners. As a matter of fact, it's very difficult sometimes to make that choice between the two methods, and once you started one and spent half a year on it, you don't really want change and get all different books and get used to a different structure and method. So if you've never played the piano, it might be very difficult to just look at the books and, okay, this one is better for me and that one's better for me. So in this video, I'm going to try to be very objective, because although both books have pros and cons, they are both excellent and very efficient method books, but their strengths and weaknesses might give you an insight into which one is best for you. I have a long list here of things that I want to point out. It might go on for quite a while, this video, but I try to be very concise. So first of all, before I even start, I'm going to be talking about these two versions. This one is Faber's Piano Adventures. As you know, it's a huge series. I've got lots of videos on them, and this one is the adult version of it, and this one is book one. Now, all of these piano methods come in different editions, and this one is the all-in-one, which basically combines theory, technique, sight reading and lesson into one book. The reason why I'm comparing these two, because I think these are the best ones for solo learners, or even if you have a teacher, because there's far more information in these books than just the lesson books, and it gives you more practice. The other reason why I absolutely love these editions is because they are comb-bound. So you can put it on the piano, it opens properly flat, and if you have worksheets in them, you can work easily without trying to break the book at the spine. Many piano books are very difficult to keep open, especially the perfect bound ones, and I don't advise playing from those, because it's going to be a nightmare. Every time you start playing something, the book is going to close on you, and it's very counterproductive. So these are the all-in-one editions of both the Piano Adventures and Alfred's Basic all-in-one adult piano course. So let's start with the price. The price is roughly the same. Obviously, it depends where you buy it, but I did a quick search on Amazon, and Piano Adventures comes at £11 and Alfred comes at £12. So same price, so price shouldn't really be an indicative of which one you should choose. The structure, the adult Piano Adventures one has two levels, level 1 and level 2, and if you finish level 2, you can progress on to the level 3 of the standard edition, not the adult one but the kids edition. So once you get to level 3, it's not going to be so childish anymore, and anyone can learn from those books, and you can go on to level 3, 4 and level 5, and that takes you, I would say, roughly to grade 3 level of ABRSM. So that's for Piano Adventures. Now the Alfred is different because it has 3 levels, level 1, level 2 and level 3, but it doesn't take you anywhere after level 3. So you can't go back to the standard edition after level 3, which means that once you're finished with the Alfred method book, you're ready to play just repertoire and proper piano pieces, and you should have learned by then every musical concept that you need for those pieces. So that's the main difference in the structure, that this one takes you back to the standard one, this one doesn't take you back, it stays in the adult version. Now regarding the supplementary books, the Piano Adventures has 3 supplementary books. In my previous video I said 2, but it has 3. It has classics, popular and Christmas. So you can buy extra books for both level 1 and level 2, and these have some nice songs to give you extra practice outside the book. The Alfred edition also has lots of supplementary books, but the good thing is that with both of these editions, you can choose from any of the supplementary books that come with the kids' books as well, because you know, pop songs are always pop songs and Christmas songs are always Christmas songs. So whichever you choose, as long as it's around the level that you are at, it's going to be suitable suitable. It doesn't have to say adult on it. So let's talk about the pace, because I think that's one of the key aspects of a piano method book. If it's too fast-paced, you might give up too soon because you find it too difficult. If it's too slow-paced, you might get bored and you might not feel motivated. So I would say that from these two books, the Alfred is definitely more fast-paced. It's like medium to fast, and the Piano Adventure is medium to lower medium. The end or the middle of the Alfred book is much harder than the middle of the Piano Adventures book. Now, it's difficult to objectify this because the repertoire inside is very different. Like, this book concentrates on chords, and this book is kind of an overall knowledge, so it puts emphasis on all kinds of technical difficulties. If you are a slow learner, or if you like to take your time with learning, you might be a fast learner but you don't have so much time to practice, or you like taking things a little bit slower, I would suggest the Piano Adventures. But if you want to play songs very quickly and you don't care so much about technique and you don't want to spend too much time on concepts, then the Alfred is much better for that, because it gets you to play songs which sound more like songs much quicker than Piano Adventures. Now, this takes me right to the repertoire inside, which again is a big factor in choosing between the two books. The Alfred is focusing very strongly on the pop side of things. Now, having said that, you won't find too many pop songs or current pop songs in the book. In the end, there are a few, but it's mostly spirituals and traditional songs, and maybe one or two classical, but I think one or two is the most you'll find in it. However, Piano Adventures is like a complete piano course, meaning that you'll find a lot of classical pieces, you'll find a lot of traditional, a lot of spiritual and world pieces as well. Now, you won't find any pop songs in this because of copyright reasons, but if you buy the pop book, you can supplement the lesson book with similar level pop songs. So what I want to say about this is that if you want to learn piano to play pop songs and nothing else, then definitely go for Alfred, because Piano Adventures is going to teach you a lot of things that you might never use in your life. And I'm saying this, never use in your life, you don't know what you're going to use later on, but if you have a strong mindset that you don't like classical music and you want to play a lot of pop music on the piano, then this one is definitely much better for that. Now, if you like both, like classical and pop as well, then Piano Adventures is much better for that, because it puts far more emphasis on different technical aspects that do not show up in Alfred, that are not necessarily common in pop music but are common in classical music. So it gives you an all-rounder piano knowledge, and you'll be able to play any style, classical or pop. Now, the interesting thing is, when you look at the second and third books of the Alfred, it goes into a complete classical direction. Like, in the third book, I think most of the pieces are classical, and this is something that I don't understand. Why is the first book so focused on pop music if the second and third are so focused on classical music? And Piano Adventures, on the other hand, stays very balanced all the way through. So even if you go to the upper levels, it's going to have a nice balance of classical, spiritual, and popular tunes. Now let's see what's inside this all-in-one. Now, obviously both books cover the lesson book, so if you buy just the lesson book, that's going to be included in these all-in-one editions. The Piano Adventures, in every chapter you're going to see the lesson. You're going to get a 3-minute technique page, which basically has some technical exercises, and it talks a little bit about technical aspects of that specific chapter. And then you have a music theory page, which kind of is a worksheet, but it's very limited in the worksheet aspect. It's mostly basically recognizing things that you learned in that chapter. There is a bit of sight reading, and you also get some oral tests in the bottom, which your teacher is supposed to play for you, and then you have to recognize things by listening. So that's what you get in every single chapter, mostly lessons, then 1 page of technique and 1 page of music theory. In the Alfred's edition, for every chapter, you get some technique, but the technique is very different to Piano Adventures. It's not, I wouldn't say that it's specifically made for the chapter in the book. They just put in some random finger exercises. There's one Hanon and there's one really difficult one for finger independence, but that's really it. There's nothing about staccato, nothing about tenuto, nothing against legato, against staccato, nothing about voicing. So the technical part of this book, I would say, is definitely inferior to the Piano Adventures one. But you get a lot more worksheets, and in the worksheets you get to write a lot more, so it makes you understand concepts a bit more, and it places a huge emphasis on chords and understanding chords and using chords with melody. So that's the difference between the all-in-one editions. I really like the worksheets in the Alfred, but I think the Piano Adventures, again, is giving you more information about technique and music theory as well, despite the fact that it doesn't have so many worksheets. Now, coming back to the chords section, when I say chords, if you're new to piano, when you hear music, you hear sometimes melodies, which are single notes, and sometimes you hear harmonies when many notes are sounded together, and that's what we call chords. And if you play songs with lots of chords, it's going to sound much nicer, richer and fuller than when you play single melodies in both hands. Now, Piano Adventures is trying to bring in chords as well quite soon on, but not as quickly as Alfred. And in order to be a very good pianist in the classical sense, you need to have independence in both hands, the left hand and the right hand as well. And independence means you have to be able to move your fingers independently from each other. You have to have control in each finger for dynamics, for speed, for clarity. And in order to do that, you have to play both chords and melodies in both hands. Otherwise, if you only play a melody in the right hand and chords in the left hand, your right hand is going to be a lot more flexible when it comes to melodies, and the left hand is going to be much stronger when it comes to chords. But if you have to swap, it's going to be very difficult. And this is the big disadvantage of the Alfred method, because for 90% of the book, you get chords in the left hand and a melody in the right hand. And Piano Adventures is trying to give you some of that, but also a lot of classical approaches where you have melodies going in both hands or more interesting accompaniment patterns in the left hand. Having said that, chords make the songs very pretty, so that's why many people who use the Alfred method think that they can play songs which sound like songs much earlier on, as opposed to Piano Adventures fans. But again, once you get to the end of the first or second books, that kind of advantage is going to disappear, and Piano Adventures will give you a more complete technical ability to play any kind of piano piece. The length of the books is kind of the same. I think Piano Adventures is 20 pages longer, but it shouldn't make any difference because it's just more sparsely laid out, and Alfred is more dense. Now, when you look at the book, let me show you a chapter. Like, for example, Piano Adventures has actual photographs of things that it's talking about, and then the layout is also a lot more up-to-date and more modern. And the Alfred book is a little bit more old-fashioned. It's not badly laid out, but it's a bit more old-fashioned. And in the beginning, for those same concepts, you get drawings. Where are they? You get some very old-school drawings. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think nowadays people find it much easier to work with photographs. Now, both of these books come with CDs or audio accompaniments that you can use to have fun with and play your songs along to. I'm not sure if the Alfred offers now the online version or is it just a CD, but Piano Adventures, you can access all the accompaniments online without paying. So it's free to everybody who has the book. And they also have a lot of videos showing you certain concepts from the book and explaining how the piano works, how you should hold your hand, and so on. So I would say that if you are learning by yourself without the help of a teacher, Piano Adventures is definitely your number one choice because it's going to be much easier to get by with this book. Alfred has great songs in it, but without a teacher, it's going to be quite difficult to decipher some of the concepts inside. Now let's have a look at the structure and the chapters. The first chapter of Piano Adventures is my detested chapter. I never use this chapter and I don't understand why they have it inside. It's this first chapter where you have these weird melodies, which is playing by numbers or pre-notation, and it's basically trying to make you play melodies without reading notes or music, just by using finger numbers. And I understand the purpose of this is to get you to play something on your first lessons, but it puts so much into this first chapter that for a complete beginner it's extremely confusing and overwhelming. It starts talking about intervals, dynamics, about chords, about repeats, melodies, and then once you get to chapter 2, it all goes back to normal, a slow pace, you start getting notation, and the concepts come one by one. So I don't understand what this first chapter is supposed to be. In my view, it should more be at the end of the book as a revision instead of a first chapter. But what I do with my students, I just leave out the first chapter completely. I explain a couple of concepts, some note values and pitches, and then we just go from chapter 2. And after that, the book works perfectly fine. Now, Alfred doesn't have this problem. The first chapter here is notation already. So these are the first 2 pages, and as you can see, you've already got a couple of songs and proper notation. And in the very first few chapters, you've got note names in the note heads, which helps you if you don't have a teacher. So after that, you get concepts in each of these books, new songs, introduce new concepts. And in the very end, the difference is that the Alfred book added something into this all-in-one edition. You have a collection of songs, which I think is amazing. You've got Amazing Grace, you've got Over the Rainbow, At Last, Singing in the Rain, Laura, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. So basically there's a little collection of repertoire in the end of the book, and these are really nice arrangements, and it basically saves you buying those supplementary books if you only want to play one of each songs. So this is missing from Piano Adventures, which I think would have been nice to add a few more songs at the end of the book. But anyway, the Piano Adventures roughly covers the same things as the Alfred, but you get more on the technical side. But the first book covers C major and G major, so songs in these 2 keys and positions, whilst the Alfred book covers C major, G major, D minor and A minor as well. So it teaches you 2 more scales and songs in 2 more minor keys. But that's the main difference between the structure. Otherwise, they are quite straightforward and very well structured. One of the big advantages of these methods is that they work on an interval style sight reading approach, to say it like that. So when you read music, you can either work out every single note individually, or you can look at the relationship between notes, like is it going up, is it going down, is it going up by 2 notes, is it going up by a space? And that's called interval approach, because when we read music really fast, we don't have time to look at every single note because it's just too quick, and we wouldn't be able to process so many things in such a short amount of time. So instead, we learn to recognize shapes, like the shape of a chord, the shape of an interval, and that's a much more efficient way of reading music and sight reading. And the good thing is that both of these books focus on teaching you how to sight read by intervals instead of the old school method when you had to learn every note one by one and write in the notes and figure out the spaces and lines. So that's a good thing about both of these books. I think that's the end of this side-by-side comparison. I think it was a lot of information in this video, and hopefully you found it helpful. If you have any more questions, you can leave them in the comments. Well, thank you very much for watching, and as always, subscribe for more.